All right, hello, tarot friends. This is Cassandra, the card reader, and we're talking about what happens when you're giving a reading and it's not landing. The person's like, "What are you talking about? I don't know what you're saying." Okay, and then we're not talking about this happening in your own mind, which I guess that what I'm going to say applies to that. But no, when you're face to face with somebody going, what are you talking about? I have no idea. This is making no sense. So let me tell you a little story. I have my name and phone number on the internet available for readings. So sometimes people call me and, it's a mixed bag. When people call you randomly off the internet, it is a mixed bag. So the other day, somebody called me and this guy was like, okay, I want a reading. He paid me. And he's like, I want to know about me and my wife. I want to know if my wife is going to leave me. And I'm like, okay. So I laid some cards and I said, it looks like she's weighing her options and that finances or support of some kind are a concern. And he's like, what are you talking about? My wife of 30 years? This can't be who you're talking about. I don't know what you're saying. This makes no sense. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, what is going on here? And I'm like, okay. And I laid some more cards and I said, yeah, basically she's at a crossroads and she's trying to, look at her options. That's what just came up, is like she's looking at her options and seeing, like, is it worth it to stay here? Or, what are my other options on moving on, or this and that and the other? And I said, and finances are very much coming into play. And he's like, I don't know who you're talking about. This couldn't be my wife of 30 years. And I'm like, he's like, how can you even be saying this? You don't even know her name. Because at the beginning of the reading, he was like, oh, do you need her name and her picture? And I'm like, no, I don't work that way. I read tarot and I don't need that. And he's like, you don't even know my wife's name. How can you be saying these things? What kind of cards are you reading? And I'm like, they're tarot. It's like, oh no, those are the wrong kind of cards. They don't understand what's going on. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And so then he's like, well, is she having an affair? So I laid some cards and I'm like, there could have been something at one point, but it's fizzled out by this, by now. And there's nothing going on there. And he's like, he's like, oh, once again, he's like, you can't be talking about my wife and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And so then in the middle of all of his spouting out of like, he kept saying, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. He said, well, we've been separated for 3 years. And then that's when it clicked for me. It was like, yeah, they've been separated for 3 years. She's trying to figure out, like, is she going to pull the trigger and get divorced? How much money can she get out of it? Is it worth it? Should she stay? This is what I'm saying. But my point is that sometimes, and this doesn't happen a lot, so I'm not trying to scare anybody. Like, don't be overly scared, like, oh, it's going to happen a lot. Because, this rarely happens, but it can happen, especially when you just get random people on the internet calling you. That it's very possible that this can happen. But sometimes people don't know what you're talking about. And there could be various reasons for that. In this case, this guy was kind of in denial. And he wanted to fight me on it and fight the cards. And I'm like, when people do that, I'm like, okay, it's not my problem. You know what I mean? And so you kind of have to just develop, like, hey, because when he was going, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm like thinking, okay, maybe this isn't quite spot on. Let me look at some other possibilities or whatever. But, I still stuck to what I saw was happening. And then, like I said, when I got the kind of the vital piece of information that they've been separated, and I'm like, yeah, this makes total sense. I am calling it correctly. I feel. And also sometimes you may have been in a situation where somebody gave you some advice or tried to tell you something, and at the time you couldn't hear it. And then later you look back and you're like, yeah, they were trying to tell me. I should have listened, but you just couldn't hear it at the time. And so you just have to accept that as a reader, that sometimes they can't hear it. And sometimes you're just off and you don't know what's going on. And like that, I'll tell people that too. I'll be like, this could be off. Take it with a grain of salt, but this is what I'm seeing. This is what it looks like to me, you know. So that's just what I wanted to say about like when your readings aren't landing with someone, just kind of go through the checklist of like, is there some avenue that I'm not exploring with this, or another way to interpret this. But as long as you just kind of do those couple of avenues, it's like, it is what it is what I'm saying. It is what it is. And it's, like I said, it's rare that someone really pushes back so hard like this guy did, but it can happen. And so to conclude the whole story, what I ended up doing is I said, well, if this isn't making any sense to you, maybe I should just give you a refund. And he was like, yes, give me a refund. So I gave him a refund. I probably spent 10 minutes with him, 10 minutes. And it's like, to me, I'm fine. I'm fine with giving a refund. It's like, if people are not happy, if they're not satisfied, just give them a refund. But, this is where I'm saying you have to kind of wade through who your clientele are, because if you're getting a lot of that, then you're pulling the wrong people in. You're attracting the wrong people, because that shouldn't be happening. And like I said, this was a rare instance, and that's, in my opinion, that's how it should be, because most people are actually very kind, very gracious, Oh, and then just one more quick anecdote. One time I was reading for someone in a party setting, and so I was, I don't remember. It's been a while. I don't remember exactly what I was saying to him. And I'm like, does that make any sense? And he's like, no, not really. And I guess a friend of his walked by and she said, she's telling you to sell the house. So it just reinforces the point that sometimes people just don't hear it, or sometimes it's just their perspective, like they're not, or you're not connecting, but it's fine. It's not, you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm a terrible reader. Oh, I should have gotten that. Oh, because that's what really messes you up. So the point is, just call it like you see it. Tell it like it looks. Ask a couple questions if you need some clarifying questions, and call it a day, because you're not responsible for everything. So until next time, read in the nude.